I might as well put you on the rostrum, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatha Yahweh. Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Asherah. Nathan Lanawa. Hashabath. Bashalawam. Thowada. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Taha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad. Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Ayanyim Ya O Harayim Ma'ayan Yabawa'a Isaiah Yabawa'a Mayahawa Sha'aisha Shamayim Wa'aratiza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamarka Ana La'a Yanawam Wala'a Yayashan Shashuma Yashrala Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia Ayel Ya Yum Ya Yawamam Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarak La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaya Makal Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Hawalakia Wabawaya Ma'aitha Wa I Walam Bahasham Yahweh So Wada Amen.
Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help? My help coming from the Lord which made heaven and earth. Even I suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yashrala, hear, O Israel. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh Echad. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh Echad. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh Echad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Mala'ah, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathan Lanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Sa, Wasalakwanawa, Kababathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, O, Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Marai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wathaparath, La'aiwalam, Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Aisha Ramataz wa the 10 Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Lakah, Alahayim, Akaryim, Alpanya, La'ah, Da'isha, Lakah, Paso, Wala'ah, Ta'ibadam, La'ah, Dalakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayika, Lashua, Zakar, Ath, Hayawum, Hashabath, La Kodashwa, Kabad, Abiakar, Wa'amaka, La'ah, the Ratazak, La'ah, Thana'ah, La'ah, Daganab, La'ah, Ta'ina, Shakur, La'ah, Thakamad, Ko, Asherah, La'raika, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold it guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and holiday. Honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may belong upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Amen. Yeshua, I be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathan Lanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Ella. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. So Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I might well upon you in Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shamayim, Wa'arataza, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawan Nawa, Ahab Nawa, Hapalah, Yahweh Itazah, Yahweh Shai. Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Barataza 1, Ainka, Yasha'Allah. Izarnawa, Banah, Wasap, Yasha'Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yum, Aitha, Kayawunyum, Makwadam. Baba Kusha, Shalat, Mayaka'Allah, Wahataza Wadat, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa. Ba'aikwar, Shalat, Haroka, Sho, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Lalamadnawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Sabawana, Wada'aith, Sho, Dabarka. Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Thawada, Thamyad, Wa'iwalam, Amun. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, War, Lara Awath. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the ram song to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Korun, Hayom, La Korah, Haim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hashaman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'Allah. Yeshaba, be seated. All right, Shalom, Yasha'Allah. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters that's scattered throughout, watching online, listening on a teleconference. Again, happy Sabbath or Shar Shabbat on the Most High's Day. We are Hayasha'Allah Kanas, the Congregation of Israel, located here in Philadelphia. Teach the law, statutes, commandments found in the Bible, prophecies, histories, fruits of the Spirit, all things that pertain to our upliftment and nourishment days found in the Old Testament, New Testament, as well as the hidden books known as the Apocrypha, of which we will be into today for today's Sabbath service lesson. All right. So for the newcomers, those who are watching newly, those whose ancestry follows the lineage on their father's side of so-called Native American Indians and Hispanics, you represent a portion of the 12 lost tribes of the nation of Israel, as well as those whose ancestors on the father's side follow the lineage of the so-called Negroes who fell victim to the
diaspora of the slave trade from West Africa all throughout North, Central, and South America, throughout the Caribbean, as well as throughout the rest of the world, Europe, and so forth and so on. Through scriptures, we know, based on prophecies and history, that those tribes, those people known today, fall under the ideology of the nation of Israel, right? And you also find all other nations in the Bible as well, right? So so-called Arabs, Europeans, Chinese, Japanese, so-called native indigenous folks from the land of Ham, or known as Africa, the Polynesians, and so on. All of that is found throughout the historical book known as the Bible, to give you the history of the earth, history of the nations, and the sign of the times that have happened in the past and the things that are happening today moving forward. So these are the things that we go through the Bible to bring out this understanding given to us by the Most High Christ, Christ Jesus, to get us through and a better understanding of who we are and what is required of us as a people. All right, so with that being said, we're going to jump into the book of the Apocrypha, 2nd Esdras. We're going to go into the 13th chapter, and I want to just make note that at a certain point we will have to revisit the 11th and the 12th chapters. I think I made mention of it in one of the classes about the breakdown on the 12 feathers, 8 feathers, 3 heads. That has to be gone over again to break down who those feathers are and what they represent. So we'll tackle that. We'll figure out how we want to do that. If we're going to do it in a class or if we're going to do it in a Sabbath service. But we will be revisiting that. But we will get into 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter here. For today's lesson. So we'll start with the first 13th chapter, take a break, and then come back. All right, so it says 2nd Esdras 13:1. All right, so we know that Esdras has been receiving a lot of visions and breakdowns from the Most High throughout the past several chapters within this book. And this is the same thing. Most High is about to show him the end times, a portion of the middle times leading up to the end times, and how we have the books or the record that we have today. So we'll go through that. So it says in 2nd Esdras 13:1, it says, "And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night." Right. So we know the Most High sometimes can show you things in a vision or a dream, or he can present an angel and break it down for you clearly, plainly in front of you. So this case, this was by a dream that the Most High came to Esdras. It says, "And lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him." Right? So in this dream, he's seeing, a wind come and it's moving all the waves, but then he sees a man appear, and when this man appears, as he's looking, everything else is trembling around him, right? It says, "And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire," right? So when you have like how they have out in the West Coast, those forest fires that have been destroying for the many years now, that it just goes and just destroys the landscape, destroys the homes and everything else, because of the heat and the intensity of the element itself. It just burns everything up. So he's kind of seeing this when the man is speaking. It's like burning everything up that he's seeing within this dream, right? It says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the 4 winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea." So as this man is using his voice and speaking, is burning up everything, right? And then at a certain point in time, later on, he sees a great multitude come against this man, right? It says, verse 6, but I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew up upon it, right? So as the man is observing these multitudes coming, he now goes and molds out a graven mountain and stands upon it. Actually, this kind of reminds, I think we went through this, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago when you had the question on the 10 tribes in this chapter. So he's seen the figure of a man standing on a mountain, right? Graven without hand. Say again. Exactly. Yep. So it says, but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not, right? So he couldn't see from whence this graven hill came. He just seen it appear, right? It says, and afterward this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet durst fight, right? So as we're seeing this man now stand upon his mountain, and everyone is coming against him, they're coming against him, but they're afraid at what they're seeing, right? They're not coming like, you know, with fearlessness. They're coming either because they know this is their end or what have you, and they're afraid to go up against what is standing before them. It says, and lo, verse 9, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But I only saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid, right? So this is now in the dream that the Most High has sent Esdras, right? And
yeah, that's what I read quickly. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 14.
And also, I think 23. So before you read that, right? I think this is a popular verse that we've gone through many times in the school within the past year, because although he's not here today, he always asks about this verse, this chapter. He always asks about this breakdown. He always is referencing back to this vision, right? So I know we've gone through it, but just in a quick summary, what would this dream allude to or amount to? Anybody knows what this dream amounts to? What is it pertaining to, or what is it dealing with? Just Christ? The whole, everything that we just read. What is it dealing with? Edify.
That he was so dreadful that he break up the nation. Nobody's coming up against him.
Okay. That's it? Right. So this is dealing with the return of Yahushua and what is seen and what is done during the return of Yahushua. What leads up to the return of Yahushua? So before you go to Jeremiah, If I double back to the third verse, right? If I double back to the third verse, and it says, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. So go to Revelations 3. Go to Revelations, the 5th chapter. So it says in Revelations 5 and 11. Everybody got it? Says, and I beheld, this is John the Revelator. Yahweh Kanan, I think that's the sister. This is John the Revelator. Yeah. Seeing up into the heavens. So it says, Revelation 5 and 11, I beheld and heard the voice of many angels round about the throne and the beast and the elders. And the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, right? So this is what he's seeing in the heavens round about the throne. An innumerable number, thousands of angel spirits around the throne of the Most High, right? With the Lamb, because it says in verse 12, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing, right? So reason why I went to this verse is because it says, and I beheld, back in 2nd Esdras 3, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. So it's the man there, which is the Son, which is Yahushua, but he's not alone. He's with thousands, as we're seeing here in Revelation, thousands upon thousands, right? Now go to Daniel's. Go to Daniel's, the 7th chapter. Tenth verse. Actually, I'm gonna start at 9. Daniel 7 and 9. So it says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So what is this talking about? Daniel 7 and 9, I'm reading it again. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down. I'll give you this part. This is all the kingdoms, all empires is cast down, right? They're destroyed, overthrown. It says, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Who's that? The Most High. The Most High is the Ancient of Day, right? A day is formulated by the Most High, but he's just not someone who's just there. He's the ancient. He's so far before what we consider even a day to be, right? It says, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his hair like the pure wool, which is resemblance of who? His son, Yahushua, what we read in Revelations. He had hair that was the pure wool, that was white as snow. It says his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as the burning fire. So around him, you see all these things. You got chariots, you got angels, you got everything proceeding around the throne. a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set and the books were open. So this is the same thing that John just saw in Revelations. Daniel is seeing it as well. It says, I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So this is talking about that last empire, that last beast that we read about in Revelations until it's destroyed and brought down. Daniel's is seeing this. Before the Greek Empire ever even comes into existence, before the Roman Empire comes in, he's seeing all these things. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for yet a season and a time. Now here's where I wanted to go to. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. Who are the clouds of heaven? It says, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. The angels, right? So the clouds represent the chariots, inside the chariots are the angels. So now he's coming and being presented before the Most High, but he's not alone. He has an entourage. He has the thousands with him, right? It says, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, right? So this is now like the ceremonial aspect of before Yahushua gets his kingdom. He's now being presented before the Most High, and then the Most High says, go and take, right? Because that's what it says, the saints shall take the kingdom when you read down in verse 18.
Yeah, just like how different nation rules from the Egyptians and everything that ruled, another nation conquer, rule and conquer, you know?
Right.
And this you know, nation, he's gonna rule it forever.
Right. So this is showing that these three prophets right now, John the Revelator, Daniel, and Esdras, all saw the same thing at different points in times, seeing different aspects of the same thing of Yahushua, Christ coming to take his kingdom, right? So now when we go back to 2nd Esdras 13, verse 3, and then I'm going to jump down to where we were before. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. So when Christ comes with the angels, and they all bear witness to what they see, they're all going to be afraid, right? They're all going to tremble when they see that figure described in the Bible come with all of these chariots and visit the earth. That's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to tremble, right? And then it talks about wherever so his voice went, it burned up. So this is where Yahweh Kanah now is going in Jeremiah as far as for what is now causing this type of burning, right? Now let's go to Jeremiah 5. Jeremiah, the 5th chapter and the 14th verse.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to because you the one called Jeremiah 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm winning, because you called Jeremiah 5, and then we go to Job.
Jeremiah 5.
Come.
Jeremiah 5, verse 14. It's a word for thus said the Lord God of hosts. because he speak this word, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them.
Right. So that's how the Most High's word goes out. It's not saying as little that when you go out and you speak and you read the scriptures, that now fire is coming out of your mouth and then it's now catching on to the people and they're burning up like wood, right? No, it's meaning that they're going to be broken based on the words that's being spoken, right? That's why somebody say cut to the heart. You're not really taking a knife and cutting them in the heart like it says in Acts, right? When Stephen was speaking this thing and he said the people were cut to the heart. No, that means that they now were broken. They now heard the word or heard what was coming forth from prophecy, from history, what have you, and in how it's breaking them up, right? Jump to the 23rd chapter of the same book, Jeremiah, before we go to Job. Job 23 and 29. Jeremiah 23, 29, not Job. Jeremiah 23, 29. So Jeremiah 23, 29, it says, is not my word like as fire, based on what we just read, right? The word will go out like fire, and people will be like stubble, saith the Lord, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces. So yeah, it'll go out like fire to destroy and consume all the doctrine and false philosophies and things of that nature. It'll burn that up. Then it says also like a hammer that when you bang on something, it breaks it up into pieces. Jeremiah 23, 29. So that's what the word is going to do, right? So this is what he's seeing in the vision. He's seeing when the man speaks, it's just devouring, burning everything up, right? So we're talking about this being when Yahushua comes in the second return, but it's not to say that he's going to go without an actual battle or fight. That is going to happen. But in the vision, it's symbolic of how powerful the word is, right? Because that's his nickname, the word, right? That's what we know Christ as, the word. The word of who? The Most High, right? So the Most High is orchestrating all that. So in the scriptures, the Lord speaks about how the war or how that third world war is going to culminate with Christ and the angels and all the nations being gathered together, right? He tells you that he's the one that's summoning all of this up for that final battle. You read about it in, I think, Isaiah 13. You read about it in Joel. It's a lot of different prophets all saw visions of the same thing, but just differently. And the Most High gives you the interpretation as we're about to read in Esdras. So that was Jeremiah 23, 29. And you now say you have Job.
Job 4 and 9.
Job 4 and 9.
Yeah, Job 4 and 9. It said, by the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed.
Right. The breath is his word, his wisdom, right? So when you go out and you speak, it consumes, it destroys, it breaks up, it burns those that receive it, that oppose the Lord's doctrine. It's Job 4 and verse 9. All right, so let's go back to 2nd Esdras 13 and pick back up from verse 9. Again, in verse 9, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, right? So when it's talking about the violence of the multitude, is going through speaking about all their devices and things that they have done or used or created, contraptions, weapons, doctrines, everything, right? It's all violence that is causing all this hysteria that's going on. So they're coming with this, right? It says, he neither lifted up his hand nor held sword nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest. And with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid, right? So again, with the foresight, this is alluding to the Son, or the Son of Man, Christ, coming back with the angels, fighting against the nations gathered together against him. But we're going to get the angels, or Uriel's, breakdown from the Most High. Verse 12. Afterward, I saw the same man come down from the mountain and call unto him another peaceable multitude, right? So now after he's come off this mountain, he's now going to go and call another group, right? This other group, it says, and there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, and some brought of them that were offered. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awaked and said, right? So now in the visions, after he's seeing the war, the vision shifts. So now the man is on this mountain, comes off the mountain to call another multitude. So we got to understand what that dynamic is. What is that representation of, right? Verse 14, thou hast showed thy servant these wonders from the beginning, and hast counted me worthy that thou shouldest receive my prayer. Show me now yet the interpretation of this dream, right? So the beauty of this is, as a man Esdras, as Daniel, as John the Revelator, as Jeremiah, as Isaiah, a lot of these prophets, there's a lot of prophets that came through Israel, but the Most High had select few chosen that were now able to be receiving visions and breakdowns of the end time. Not everybody received it, right? They were the vessel to receive it, receive the interpretation of it, and now we have the record of it to read, so that now all the elect, the chosen, the remnant, can receive that understanding by way of them from the Most High in Christ. First Yahukanan, then Sister Khadijah.
Yeah, they read us a small scale of this, which is 2 Kings 1 and 7. Going down a few verses.
Fine.
Let me start at 8. 2 Kings 1 and 8. And they answered him. He was an hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins. And he said, it is Elijah the Tishbite. Then the king sent unto him a captain of 50 with his 50, and he went up to him. And behold, he sat on the top of an hill, and he spake unto him, thou man of God, the king had said, come down. And Elijah answered and said to the captain of the 50. No, let me read that. And Elijah answered and said to the captain of the 50, if I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And there came fire, and there came down fire from heaven and consumed him and his 50.
Mm-hmm. So
I mean, how this is a smaller scale to Yahweh, the Most High, around these men, destroying these men. So Elijah, as a man of God, and he was able to do on a smaller and a way smaller scale, but he did it also. Or fire from heaven and destroy it.
Right. So Elijah, in his encounter with these men, that physically happened, right? When vision and Revelation and what we read in Thessalonians and what we read in Isaiah, it's just not to literally say that there's not going to be an actual physical fighting, right? There's going to be a physical fighting, but what it's showing you is the power of just the word itself and what it does, how it consumes. Right now, the power of the word is spiritually doing that in the earth, right? It's spiritually destroying a lot of philosophies, doctrines, and people's understanding of what it is they think the Most High is, or what they think about what righteousness is, or what they think about peace is, right? This all comes from the word, but there will be actual physical fighting. Let me go to Isaiah 34. Right. So here is another aspect of the same vision, just said differently, or given to Isaiah differently, right? So this is Isaiah 34. I'm gonna start at 1, read down to verse 8, 10. I'm gonna sift through this and then come back with the edification. It says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and ye hearken, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear and all that is therein, the world and all the things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them, and he hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heaven shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree." Right? So when it says, and the hosts, and the heaven shall be rolled together as a scroll, what is that talking about?
Oh, the nuclear bomb.
The bombs, right? When the bomb drops and it hits, what happens? The residue, it rolls up, the smoke, the cloud is like rolling up within itself. That's what you see when you go online on YouTube or you look at history channels and you see when the bombs were dropped, how it boom and it forms a mushroom cloud and it rolls up on itself, right? So that's an actual thing that's going to happen that Isaiah is showing of the same thing that's going to happen that we're reading in Esdras. "My sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment," right? "The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." So last night, this night during the class, times the Most High's word, how he write or the scriptures is given to is kind of poetic. It's written in allegories. It's written in a manner that's just not plain, but it's written in the sense that when you read it, you're like, oh, you got to think a little bit, right? Because it says here, verse 6, "The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made with the fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams." So what is that talking about when it says all that stuff? Of what? Kind of, sort of. Huh? Which people? Exactly, right? But it's talking about things that we do all the time that's a part of our culture. Sacrifice animals on the altar to the Most High, right? I'm going to read that again. "The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with the fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys of rams." Those are things that we offer as a sacrifice to the Most High. But now it has a colon at the end of it. So it's going to now further explain what it's talking about. "For the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." So it's not talking about the actual animals. It's talking about these people that's found in Basra or Idumea, which we know to be Edom. It says the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks and the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made with fatness. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. It's the same thing that we just read in Esdras. That was talking about the smoke and everything that he saw when the word went and destroyed and burnt up everything. It says, it shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. So when those things happen, when those bombs drop in that day, it will always have a continual burning of smoke in that land, right? Forever and ever. That will be the memorial of that place, right? The smoke thereof shall go up forever, from generation to generation. It shall lie waste, none shall pass through it forever and ever, right? Then you read on down about the scavengers and things that's going to be left there to go and feast on the carcasses and things that's left after that destruction. So now go to 61, Isaiah 61. I'm sorry, Isaiah 63. So in Isaiah 63 and 1, I just read 34, 1 to 10, right? 34, 1 to 10. And now we are Isaiah 63. I'm going to read from 1. It says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? That is that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat, right? So this is someone who's coming with dyed garments. His garments was clean, but then all of a sudden is what? Filled with blood, right? Because he's coming from Basra. We just read in the 34th chapter what's going to happen in Basra. There's going to be a great sacrifice. The Most High said his sword is going to be bathed in blood. So now this entity is now coming from Basra, from this battle, with dyed garments from blood. That's what it's talking about. It says, I'm going to read verse 2 again. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of the vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come, right? So the Redeemer is now going to redeem, but he's also going to have war. Mighty to save, right? So this is really alluding to the Son of Man, the Savior. And the blood is spilling like somebody's, like you said, stamping in the wine press. And when you stamp in the wine press and you in that vat, it splashes on you, right? He's like, that's how I'm coming. I'm gonna be stamping, and their blood is gonna be splashed all over my garments, right?
Isaiah chapter 13, verse 15.
Isaiah chapter 13, verse 15.
It says, Isaiah chapter 13, verse 15. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword.
Right. So this is
verse 16.
Their
children also shall be dashed pieces, shall be spoiled, and their wives ravaged.
Right. So this is going into the actual war. And in the midst of war, these things happen. When you look at war that happens all around the earth, throughout the world, throughout the generations, there have been things like this. That's why they even try to come up with the Geneva Conventions to give you rules of engagement in war. But sometimes this happens. Children are killed. Women are raped, right? Because of the essence of the battle itself, right? The anger, the vengeance, the hate, right? The envy, all that causes all these things to happen. So the vision also shows here in another chapter in Ezra, the same thing that's going to transpire, right? Now, when we get into the scriptures, the righteous men of the Most High are not going to go out and be raping women and doing these things. No, it's going to be the midst of the 2/3 amongst with the rest of the nation. They're going to be doing all that stuff. Not a righteous man of the Most High, right? Because the Most High has laws about how the Lord's men conduct themselves, and that's not becoming of the Most High, right? So that was Isaiah 13, 15 to 16. All right, so let's go back to Isaiah 2nd Esdras 13. So 2nd Esdras 13, and we at verse 16 now. So it says, for as I conceive in mine understanding, woe unto them that shall be left in those days, and much more woe unto them that are not left behind. For they that were not left were in heaviness. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them, and to those that are left behind. Therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like as these dreams declare. So he's realizing what he's seeing is representation of the last days. And he's like, woe unto them. Those who have to fall victim to that, oh man. So imagine what he has been experiencing in the Babylonian captivity, to look at what's going to happen in the end captivity and say, man, they gonna have it bad, right? They gonna have it worse. Woe unto them, right? Verse 20, yet is it easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world, and not to see the things that happen in the last days. And he answered unto me and said, the interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open unto thee the thing that thou hast required, right? So now the Lord is about to expound unto him what it's actually pertaining to.
Before we go forward, I have a question.
Come.
Talk about the fact that prophets different from ways,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the prophets were able to see the end time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we had others who saw, but they didn't see the end time. Is that what distinguishes the major and the minor prophets?
I wouldn't say just major and minor prophets, because John is not classified as the major prophet, right? But he saw a whole lot of and in depth as to what we know of today, in the empires and the different kingdoms that came out of the empires. So I wouldn't say that just that, because like even Joel, when you read in Joel, is classified as a minor prophet. He also describes or was seeing the same thing in his book, right? So it's just, I think, the magnitude of what those men during the captivities and what they were able to do, the length of their books. Isaiah is a long book, Jeremiah is a long book, Ezekiel is a long book. So they're given that title based on, that. But to say that just the major prophets were just shown visions like that, no, because you had others who were in the smaller minor prophets that seen the same things.
Even Joel 3 and 9.
Yeah.
Joel 3 and 9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourself together round about. Thither cause thy mighty one to come down, O Lord.
Right, but I think if you look at the second chapter, right, Joel, the second chapter goes into the same things that we're reading right now, right? Joel 2, I'm going to read from 1 all down to, I'll see where I'll stop at. It says, blow you the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain, right? Remember Zion, the mountain, so forth and so on. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong that have not been ever the like. Neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So that army that's coming has never been seen before. It'll never be seen after, right? A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. So here we go again with the descriptions of fire burning and consuming the people. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape from them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their faces, the people shall be much pain. All faces shall gather blackness. Same thing that we read over here in Esdras, that when they see the sun and the thousands with them, they shall what? Tremble. They shall go to fight them, but be in fear for what they see. It says they shall they shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march everyone on his way. They shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. So now in that day, when the thousands of the Most High, the angels come with Yahushua, and those who are with Yahushua, as far as for the men that's here, they're not going to be striking or trying to kill one another. And let's just say some kind of weapon strikes them. What did it say? It says they shall not be wounded, right? The Most High will make them, they're going to be invincible in that day. No weapon formed against them is going to prosper in that day. No laser beam, no gas, no anything is going to harm them in that day. Let me finish on. I see your hand. It says, they shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. Who can abide it, right? So this is now letting you know that when this all breaks down, there's going to be real war going on. It's not going to be like anything else. Nothing during the Roman time, the Egyptian time, the Persian and Medes, nothing like what we're seeing in World War I, World War II. Nothing is going to be compared when the Lord sends his army that day to come and redeem and to come and execute his judgment upon the earth. So again, here's Joel seeing the same things, a little bit variant or different from what we read in Revelations, or what we read in Isaiah, or what we read in Esdras. But it's the same thing. That's why precept goes with precept, to give you the whole complete picture. You put this together with this together with that together, that and everything else, and you get a whole view of what is going on, right? So that's why we bring them out. We go to Jeremiah and you go to Habakkuk to bring all this together to give you the complete picture. Like the scriptures say, 2 or more witnesses, right? You just can't just have one witness. You got to have other witnesses to confirm the same point or validate the point, right? That's why the Lord has, you have to go precept upon precept. Because if you don't, that's where you get the, oh, that's just your interpretation, right? Because if I read one verse and now I'm the other witness, now I'm going to break it down or give it the interpretation as I see fit. But if I go to the next person that's the prophet of the Most High, and the next one, now I'm saying, oh, okay, all of these individuals are talking about the same point, and they're saying it in the same manner. They're speaking about it with the same context, I should say. Maybe saying it differently, but the same context. Mm-hmm. Right. That is World War, I think either World War I or World War II. I'm not sure if you are privy to that breakdown in the scriptures. Let me see what chapter that's at. Give me 1 second. So for those who's watching, it's just trying to see the correlation with one of the visions that John the Revelator was given. Revelations 9. Right. So when you go into from Revelations 9:1 on down, this is pertaining to World War I, right? So you read 1 all the way down to, I want to say 10. What it's describing, the locust. The locust in this regard is really talking about the planes that they had, because he said he had a stinger on the back. Right, regular locusts don't have stingers on their back. So when you looked at the vision of what was transpiring when they came out of the bottomless pit, moving forward, and it talks about them now fighting one another. That's what he saw, John the Revelator, of the visions of that war. Then it goes into later on, the Revelation go into the second war, and then now it'll also start prophesying about the war that we're about to embark on. Okay. So yeah, that's something we can revisit. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to second Esdras. So we read Joel. I read 3. I think 1 to what? Where did I stop? 1 to 11. Yeah, Jeremiah 2, not 3. Jeremiah 2, Joel 2, 1 to 11. Kind of. All right. So now let's go back to second Esdras 13, because there's still a lot in here. So it says in verse 25. It says, this is the meaning of the vision. It says, whereas thou sawest a man coming up from the midst of the sea, the same is he whom God the highest have kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature, and he shall order them that are left behind. It says, and whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came as a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation, right? So going back to verse 26, it says, the same is he whom God the highest hath kept a great season. Speaking about Yahushua, right? After Yahushua was crucified, resurrected, was with the apostles 40 days, and then after taken up, he's now being held for a time until this now is about to transpire, right? So it was interesting as you're reading this, Esdras is speaking about this as if he was around already during the time of Yahushua when it said he had been kept a great season. He ain't even come on earth yet during the time of Esdras, right? But the Lord is giving him, Uriel is giving him the breakdown of the end and now how it now comes back, right? From the time that he's seen what the destruction was to before Christ came on that scene. It says again, the same is he whom God the highest hath kept a great season, which by his own self shall deliver his creature and shall order them that are left behind. Shall deliver them and order them that are left behind. Bring everything together as one, right? It says, and whereas thou sawest that out of his mouth there came a blast, as a blast of wind and fire and storm, and that he held neither sword nor any instrument of war, but that the rushing in of him destroyed the whole multitude that came to subdue him. This is the interpretation. Verse 29. Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. So in the last days, how you doing, sis? In the last days, the Most High is going to make that determination that it is now time to send his son, Christ Jesus, the anointed one, Yahushua, to deliver the remnant, right? To redeem them from the earth. And the manner in which it's going to happen is what is now being described, right? So in that day when Christ comes, this is the vision that all of these prophets have seen. It says in verse 30, it says, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, right? So when he appears, it's going to be great wonder and astonishment upon everyone when they bear witness to seeing Christ and the angels come back, right? Because for so long of a period of time, we have been given a vision or an interpolation of what we think Christ is. But who comes back is going to be an astonishment to a lot of folks, right? It says again, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. So this is almost like what Christ talked about in the gospel, right? When the disciples asked him about the last days, and he talked about nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, right? But now this is going to be the culmination of that same prophecy, that you're going to have a lot of these calamities going on within the earth, right? Now you hear Russia is doing this. Iran is still building up. North Korea is still building up their nuclear weapons. All these calamities. China is now increasing their weapons and their army. They're sending up satellites. You're doing all these things. So this is the building or the mustering of all of this. Whole list, go to Isaiah, the 13th chapter, where you was at, Yahukanan. Isaiah, the 13th chapter. And the first verse. So this is the same thing that we just read again, right? Again, two or more witnesses of what the scriptures are saying. This eliminates all of that. What though? That's his interpretation and that's their interpretation. No, the Most High gives his own interpretation in the Bible. He gives his own breakdown. You just got to be able to sift and read and link up the right precepts to the same thing. So what we're about to read here is the same thing that we've been reading so far all morning, just in another variation. So Isaiah 13:1, the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, did see. So this is the vision that was shown to Isaiah. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand that of the nobles. Lift up a banner upon the high mountain. What's a banner? A sign, like the one that's up on top of the wall up there. That's a banner, right? You have banners that come in different forms. And on the banner is what? Words, information. Sometimes you at the beach and you'll see a plane flying, and what it has behind it? A banner. And they say free drinks at such and such bar. You're like, oh, snap. And you react to the message that's on the banner. But now here, the Most High is giving Amos a vision of a banner that now has information on it. So he says, lift ye up the banner on the high mountain. What's the mountains that we know of when the Bible talks about high mountains? What's the mountains? Governments, right? So when you look in the scriptures, the Most High refers to kingdoms or powers or entities as mountains. Like during the Babylonian captivity, he called them a destroying mountain. The people were the mountain, right? Jerusalem, the tribe of Judah, the elect are also known as Mount Zion. That's how you got Mount Zion Church somewhere. In almost every state, there's a Mount Zion Church. They're not an actual mountain, but they are representative of a great force of the Most High, right? So it says, lift up the banner upon the high mountain. So what's the banner that's supposed to be lifted up to these kingdoms or governments or high people? The Bible. The Most High's word has a message on it. So you're supposed to come with the Most High's word to say, hey, I got a message for you. It says, exalt the voice unto them and shake the hand. What is it when it says shake the hand?
You guys are talking all of this stuff.
There you go. When you shake the hand, you wagging your finger. And when you're doing this, you're doing what? You telling somebody off. That's wrong what you did. That guy didn't even have a gun. That's a bad decision that you guys have done. So you are now using the Lord's words to speak about or bring about the injustices that have been done in the earth to the high government. It says that they may go into the gates of the nobles, that they now have to go back into Congress and go back into their senates and go back into the judicial entities and look at or take in what has been said. Now it's about to get into what we've been reading. It says, I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness, right? So the sanctified ones and the mighty ones represent who? Israelites and someone else. So the Israelites are the sanctified ones. That's right, because we know we're a sanctified people. But then the mighty ones, who would the mighty ones be? The angels. The thousands of the thousands that John saw, the thousand that Ezra just saw when he said the thousands of heavens is coming, right? So now the sanctified and the mighty ones are all coming. Christ ain't coming alone. He's coming to redeem the sanctified ones, but the mighty ones are going to be there as well, right? Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, all of them, they have their minions underneath them. That's all coming for this day. Remember, the Lord is describing that this day is like no other day known in history, and there will be no day like it in the future, right? It says, even them that rejoice in my highness. That's how you know it's the mighty ones. Why? Because they're the ones that are rejoicing. Glory, 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 singing high praises to the Most High all around the throne, right? The ones that rejoice in his highness. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. It's the same thing we're reading. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. So the Lord has his hand in all of this. He's causing the contentions amongst the nations to cause the conflict, to bring them together to fight against one another. And we sit back and we watch the news, we read the newspapers, and we bear privy to the conflicts that's happening. We in Isaiah 13, verse 5, it says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land, right? So it says they coming from the ends of heaven. Even who? The Lord himself, with weapons of warfare to do what? Waste the land. It says, howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. So the Most High is angry. He's coming to seek vengeance upon the earth. We've read it many times in other chapters in Isaiah. Same with John the Revelator. Verse 7. Now, this is the same thing we just read in the Esdras. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall what? Melt. Meaning what? They're all going to be in fear, afraid of what they see and what is going on. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrow shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Right? And as you read on down, it further goes into some of the same things was mentioned, but I'm going to stop there. That was Isaiah 13, 1 to 9. So now let's go back. 2nd Esdras 13. And we have verse 31 again. So verse 31 says, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the sign shall happen which I showed thee before. And then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. Right? So the Most High's prophecies has to happen, because you read that verse again in 32, it says, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass. So the things that we just read about, one people, one realm, one kingdom, all that has to happen in its time. It's not to say that they're all going to happen at one time. They have to happen in its course, right? Then it says, and the sign shall happen which I showed thee before. Not this just alone, but the other stuff that was shown to Esdras in the visions. All of that has to happen, right? Then it says, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. So when all that happens, then Christ is going to appear with the angels, right? Then he's going to manifest himself. It says, and when all the people, verse 33, hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. So all the contentions that happen in between different countries and different nations and different kingdoms and realms, whether it be a financial one, a physical one, what educational, all that happening back and forth, that's going to stop. They're not going to care about that no more, because there's a bigger thing that's now just entered into our hemisphere. That man and all the rest of everything that's with him, right? So now what's going to happen? It says, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. So all of those nations are going to stop what they're doing, band together to come fight against him. But as we read in the dream, they're going to come fearful. They're going to become timid, because they've now seen something that they have never seen before, right? A host that has never been seen or fought against before. Now they're bearing witness to it. All kind of jets, copters, lasers, smokes, chemical war. Everything is going to be used. Everything is going to be used, right? It says in verse 34 again, an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together, as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion, right? So this is Christ standing upon Mount Zion. Now, the real Mount Zion pertains to whom? The people. Which people, though? Which Israelites?
1/3?
Of the 1/3. Go to Psalms. Go to Psalm 78, because there has to be the distinction within Israel, right? Go to Psalm 78. Psalm 78. And I'm going to read from verse 65. Everybody got it? Not yet. Psalm 78, verse 65. You got it. Starts with, then the Lord awaked out of his sleep. Psalm 78, 65.
Okay.
All right. It says, then the Lord awaked as one out of sleep, and like a mighty man that shouteth by reason of wine. And he smote his enemies in the hinder parts, and hinder parts. He put them to perpetual reproach. Verse 67. Moreover, he refused the tabernacle of Joseph and chose not the tribe of Ephraim, but chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion, which he loved. Right? So now, out of the tribes of Israel, you had a distinction of who the Most High really considers to be the Mount Zion. Remember, Mount Zion was established by whom? Who established Mount Zion? Huh? David, King David, right? Remember when David was fighting against the Hamites, he first went and took, it was formerly known as Jebus, right? And he took it, and then it was renamed. It was known as Jerusalem. It was also known as the city of David. It was also known as Mount Zion, or Zion itself, right? So now David comes from out of the lineage of whom? The tribe of Judah, of which the Most High said the kingdom should always rest with the tribe of Judah, of the same tribe that who also comes out of? Yahushua. Christ himself comes out of the line of Judah, him being the King of Kings himself, right? So now when it's dealing with this Mount Zion, right, and Christ on it, out of the tribes, this is really dealing with the kingdom of Judah, right? And we'll get into that in a minute. The reason why we have to understand this distinction is because it talks about what? In the dream, it said another peaceable multitude, right? So now we got to make sure that we get who this is and then the other peaceable multitude. So now, that was Psalm 78, 65 to 68. Now let's go back to 2nd Esdras 13 and 35 again. So we just read that Mount Zion represents Judah, or the kingdom of Judah, right? So that when we see in the vision of the man standing on a mountain that was graven without hands, it's spiritual in the sense of what is really illuminating to, but when we move forward, is getting to a distinction within Israel, right? That's why we're going to read further on in the next verses. So again, but he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion, and Zion shall come and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and builded like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this, my son, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest. So Christ is going to be the one that's going to rebuke the wicked inventions. So when they come to fight, they're going to come with all their tactics, all their inventions, all their weapons of warfare. But Christ himself, along with the angels, are going to rebuke that. It's not they're going to just say, stop that. Don't use that, right? That's what you usually, when you rebuke someone, that was wrong for what you did. No, right? The rebuking is going to be a warfare. They're going to show them that everything that they have created don't amount to anything, right? It's not going to affect those who are the sanctified and the mighty ones in that day, right? This is going to be a war that's going to be one-sided. It's a one-sided, it's not equal, it's not an equal playing field on this one, right? But the multitude don't know that, right? They don't know that Christ is the one who created the elements that they use to create those weapons. Why he was able to change water to wine and put the man's ear back on his head and raise people from there and give them the sight, because he is the one who was the vessel to create those things, but from the Most High. Gabar.
All right, then Christ is going to stand on Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
this is not, when it's talking about he's going to stand, this is not like the physical standing on a mountain, right? This is representative of like what we just read in Psalms. He's now standing within the kingdom of Judah. He's that king, that representative of the top government, this top kingdom now in the earth.
Right.
But now, because you came late, when you read further up in the dream, he's standing on this mount, and then it talks about another peaceable multitude,
right,
which we're about to get to. So the other peaceable multitude is still his people.
The other 10 tribes.
The other 10 tribes.
But what I'm saying, being that he's just with Judah now.
Not just Judah, because the kingdom of Judah is made up of what?
Levi and Benjamin.
Levi and Benjamin. I'll get the precepts for that.
So are they the ones who are going to help them rebuke these inventions, or is they just standing in back of them while he do it?
All of them are gonna partake in this. Just not.
When you say all of them.
All Israel.
So that's including the other 10 tribes.
That's including the other 10 tribes.
Right now he's just with Judah.
Right. So that's why. Right. That's why I said when you put everything together, because the dream shows him just speaking and there's no actual physical warfare going on. Right. It says he's going to speak and there's no weapon, there's no sword, there's nothing, and that's what's going to happen. As if Christ is going to stand there and they're just going to just melt and die.
Well, that's the interpretation. They said fire came out and burned these people up.
Right. And that's why we went to these other people before you came. We went to these other, all these other books that show that there's actually going to be a war. There's going to be a warfare that's going on. They're going to fight. The angels are going to fight, but it's going to be one-sided. That's why it says any of the inventions that they did or that they have, when we read it in Joel, it says it shall not wound them. It shall not affect them.
Right.
So that's why the rebuking of the inventions is symbolic of it's non-effective to anything that's going to happen with Christ, the angels, or the elect or the chosen in that day. Now, the reason why I say what I'm saying as far as for all of them and not just a separate, because in that day, right now, within all the different camps and churches and whatever, there's what? A mixture of all the tribes, right? You got some Gad, some Ephraim, some Simeon, some Asher, some Judah, Levite, and within different camps. So in that day, everyone is going to be raised up. When the war is happening, we're all going to be raised up with the Most High in Christ. I mean, with Christ and the angels, right? The battle is going to go on. So what we read in Isaiah 13, it says his sanctified ones and his mighty ones are going to be gathered or get together with the host of that battle in that day. The sanctified ones represents the remnant or the elect of Israel.
One third.
Not, well, you could say the 1/3. But I'm talking about the 144,000 specifically.
Okay.
Right.
That's out of the 1/3.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to read this quickly. Genesis 49, verse 10. It said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall be the gathering of the people.
Right. So and that's representative of Christ, right? So we are all gathered unto Christ. We are all now getting the teachings of Christ to now come up under the fold.
I'm still asking the question. It said fire is going to come out of his mouth. Is this real fire going to come out?
No. So because right now we read the other precepts in Jeremiah 5:14, we read it in Jeremiah 23:29, that it's just not even fire. It's just giving you one aspect. 23:20. In certain cases in the Bible, like what we read with Elijah, that was real fire that the Most High had come down, right? In other instances, that's real. But in the figurative sense, it's how the Most High's word comes out and how it's received by the people or the masses. All right, so this will kind of give you an understanding. Jeremiah 23:29. Turn that heat off in a minute.
Okay.
Read that.
Is not my word like as fire, saith the Lord, and like a hammer that breaketh the rock in pieces?
Right. So it's not my word like fire, so it will burn up like fire. But it also is like a hammer. It'll break up people like in little pebbles. So it's not a literal, it's figurative to says that these people are like wood. And when that word goes out, those who are not really fully vested into the Most High's truth, it will consume them, right? Or it'll pound them out. It'll break up anything that they bring forth against the Most High's word. So that's why we always talk about everything always seems to always contend against the Most High's word. You rarely see anyone contending against Buddhism like how they do against the Most High's word. You rarely see anyone contend against Islam like how it contends against the Most High's word. What I mean by that is no one wants to dissect every nook and cranny of the Most High's word like the Bible. No one is going to any other so-called religious source or reference book. The Bible has always been on trial throughout ages, right? Islam will put the Bible on trial. Buddhism will put the Bible on trial. Education will put the Bible on trial. Political realm will put the Bible on trial. History puts the Bible on trial, but none of it is able to defeat it. That's why it's still standing and still fending everything off, right? When the Most High brings out the prophets to elevate it, to give persons the understanding, when he says, oh yeah, Eve ate the apple, but in the movie it showed the orange. You're like, wait, where did you get the orange from? Yeah, we just changed the apple for the orange, but where did it even say an apple? There's no apple here, right? So we got to pound that out. Matter of fact, go to 2 Corinthians, the 10th chapter real quick. 2 Corinthians 10. And 5. When you got it.
Okay.
2 Corinthians 10 and 5, it says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Verse 6, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. Right? So once you get yourself together, once you come and you understand this word and you start drawing from it like it's a breast, you start drinking from it like it's a fountain, and now it's in you. Now you are under the obedience of Christ. Then you can go and do what? To revenge all disobedience. Not to say that you're going to go up and take up arms and start executing judgment, but you're going to go speak forth the judgment, right? To do what? Cast down the vain thoughts of people. That's what Paul is saying here. That's what our job is. That's what the word does. So when you now go forth and you start teaching and you start saying, oh, the laws ain't done away with. Oh, Christ ain't came for everybody. The Most High doesn't love everybody. Yeah, the Lord has love and hate, right? When you start casting down the falsehoods of what people do, then it's like you're doing the exact same thing that's been described. These people will be like wood, and the word will go out and destroy them and burn them up. Or they'll be like a rock, and the word will come like a hammer and break and stamp them all out, right? So that nothing is able to stand against the word of the Most High. right? It's still on trial, but it still has not been convicted. It ain't going to jail. It's still fending off all the prosecutors until it then becomes the prosecutor. It will become the prosecutor when Christ comes back. Right now, it's on the defense side. It will switch over when Christ comes back to execute vengeance upon all those who sin and do the wrong thing.
So, okay, it's not fired. Okay. So those people are just going to be allowed to live. These people just got to kill them with missiles. No,
they're going to die. When you read the other, we'll give you the other precepts. It's going to be a war.
Right.
It's going to be a war. They're going to use their missiles and tanks and this and that. The angels are going to come and destroy them. Right. The nuclear bombs are going to drop. They will all be consumed in that fire. It's not going to be they're just going to stand there and live. No, they will die. The whole land will be burned up. We just read it in Isaiah 34. It says that in that day, there will be a perpetual smoke that will go from the land. None shall inhabit it no more. Right? They will die. Even some of the Lord's chosen people will die.
The chosen people?
The 2/3.
Well, we know the 2/3.
That's what I'm talking about. They're the Lord's people. Also, even though they're wicked, they're still part of the Lord's people, but they're going to receive their judgment in that day as well. So we'll backfill you on a lot of the precepts that we have went through already earlier. So let's continue to go forth back to 2nd Esdras 13 and 36. And Zion shall come and be showed to all men, being prepared and builded like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this, my son, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those for which their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, elements wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law, which is like unto fire. So where is the fire? The law, right? So it's not that the law is going to just kill them and they're going to be destroyed by the law. No, right now, the law is destroying all of their evil thoughts. All of the falsehoods that they put up. Oh, he looked like that. No, that's man name is Caesar Borgia, right? This is what he really looks like. So that's how the rulership of their falsehoods is coming down first by the law, right? Verse 39. Hold on, let me say 1 second. Is it hot in here? Or is it comfortable? All right, come. Go to Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38 and 19. Let me know when y'all got it. So it says, for in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountain shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord God. Every man's sword shall be against his brother, right? Same thing we was reading, one against another, one round, one, right? And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, and overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord, or Yahweh, right? So Ezekiel is all in that day. The Most High's judgment is going to come down upon many nations. And the objective is that he will be magnified, not only within just Israel, but also the other nations. Like how it was during the time of Joshua when they came to Rahab. And Rahab said, I heard about what your God did to the Egyptians. And a lot of the men's heart fainted from what they heard that Joshua and the men did, or Moses and the men did to those other kings. So this is going to be on a much higher level. It's not just going to be little bits and pieces of remnants of individuals who will be afraid or respect the Most High, but all nations will have that respect to the Lord. All right, so that was Ezekiel 38:19-23. So let's go back to 2 Esdras 13 and 39. So it says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered together, or gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king, whom Salmanessar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land, right? So these are the 10 tribes from the historical time of the Assyrian captivity, right? So this is like a revisit of like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when we talked about this in the last Friday class. Let's go to 1 Kings first. 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, to go into the genesis of the kings. I mean, the tribes being split. Why is it 10 tribes, and why is it Judah and Benjamin, and you know how this all fits together? So 1 Kings 11:1. So I'm gonna read a bit and I'm gonna jump. And then pick up. So this is 1 Kings 11 chapter, first verse. It says, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, right? So King Solomon, amongst his harem of wives and concubines that he had, was filled with a lot of heathen women, right? It says in verse 2, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. So the Most High was not pleased with Solomon having these strange heathen women, because he knew that these women, they were a different people. They had their own customs and culture. They had their own gods. So they would then cause Solomon to have to follow or set up the gods of his wives and draw away his heart, because you cater to your wife after from the Most High, right? That was the fear of the Most High, that once you start marrying these different men or women of other nations, you will draw farther away from me, pleasing or being under the. It's like you've diluted now your faith or your heritage. Verse 3, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites, and Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord and went not fully after the Lord as David his father. So now let's jump to verse 9. So it says, and the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned away or turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. So the Lord had to rebuke or chastise Solomon 2 times pertaining to these women that he had that had turned away his heart after other gods. And he had commanded him concerning this thing that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdoms from thee and will give it to thy servant, right? So the Most High is saying that the kingdom was now going to be split or rent from under King Solomon, right? Giving unto servants under him, right? But it says in verse 12, notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of thy hand of thy son. So it wasn't going to transpire under his rulership, but when the kingdom went to his son, then it would happen, right? His son being Rehoboam. Verse 13, howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but I will give 1 tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen, right? So the Lord was not going to just take away all the tribes. He was still going to leave something back for Rehoboam, right? One of the tribes was Rehoboam. Now, let's jump to the 29th verse. Same book. Same chapter. So now verse 29, it says, and it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahiah, the Shulamite, found him in the way, and he clad himself with a new garment, and they too were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said unto Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces. But thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will rend the kingdom out of thy hand of Solomon, so like out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes, right? So now here it is where it's been fulfilled that the Lord has now chosen Jeroboam, who was an Ephraimite, right, to now receive 10 of these tribes of the nation of Israel, right? This was going to be the dividing of the kingdom. So you have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? So these 10 tribes will be a mass of Asher, Dan, Ephraim, Gad, Issachar, Manasseh, Naphtali, Reuben, Simeon, Zebulun, right? These are the 10 tribes that went under Jeroboam, right? Now, let's go to 2 Kings. So that was 1 Kings 11. 1 to 6, and then 9 to 13, and then 29 to 32. Now we're going to 2 Kings, 12th chapter. Give me 1 second. It's not what I want. Pardon me 1 second. So yeah, 2 Kings 12. No, not 2 Kings. That's why I'm off. 1 Kings 12. 1 Kings 12:19. So it says in 1 Kings 12:19, so Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And it came to pass when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only, right? So now here you see that the kingdom of Israel, which are those twin tribes that I just named, now chosen Jeroboam to be king over them. So now Rehoboam, still according to what we're reading here, had Judah in the midst of them, right? But we're going to see that it's just not Judah that was there during the time of Rehoboam. Now let's go to the 2 Kings. Second Kings. No, I want to get Benjamin. Stay in 2 Kings, 1 Kings 12. Salak, stay where we was just at. And we'll read down. I'm going to continue to read. I stopped at 20. I'm going to read further down. It says, and when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin, and 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, right? So this now, Rehoboam, who had the kingdom of Judah, Benjamin was also a portion of that kingdom, right? So those two tribes are now going to fight against the other 10 tribes. But now the Most High is going to intervene and tell Rehoboam, no, don't go fight against your brothers. Verse 22, but the word of God came unto Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and unto all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, thus saith the Lord, ye shall not go up nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearkened therefore to the word of the Lord, and returned to depart according to the word of the Lord, right? So the reason why I went there is to give history on the breaking up of the tribes, right? The kingdom of Israel under Jeroboam, those 10, and the kingdom of Judah under Rehoboam, those 2. Now, who is not mentioned within these tribes? Levi, right? Why is Levi not mentioned? Say again? Right, they didn't have an inheritance, right? They were not a part of the number. They were separated unto the Most High, right? So that's why they are not numbered in the same order. But later on, when you read, Levi, who was a part of the northern kingdom, got kicked out because they was doing all kind of wickedness, right? So they went down to the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, and thus they dwelt amongst the kingdom of Judah. But you don't explicitly see it written like we see here because it's not including them in that same fashion. But we know based on the storyline when you're reading the Kings that Judah also was made, Levi was also made up within the southern kingdom or the kingdom of Judah, right? So now let's dive back into the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes. Now let's go to 2 Kings. It's a lot of history that's in here to build up to what we're reading. 2 Kings chapter 17. So now this is going to directly correlate what we just read in the 40th verse pertaining to Hosea the king and Salmanessar. Second Kings 17:1. Actually, I'm going to start at, yeah, I'm going to start at 1. Shalom. So this is 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Eli, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. So now in the northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, this one man named Hosea is the one that's now in rulership. Verse 2, and he did that was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. So he was wicked, but he wasn't one of the most wicked, right? Verse 3, against him came up Shalmaneser, king of Assyria. This is the same Shalmaneser that we're reading in 2nd Esdras 13 and 40, and the same Hosea the king that we read in that same verse. These are the same two entities. It says, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. Jump down to verse 5. It says, then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. So there was conflict or war that they had against Samaria in the northern kingdom for a period of 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in Habor by the river of Gozan in the cities of the Medes. So in this time, 722 BC, the northern kingdom went into the Assyrian captivity. All right. So this is when they now left from the land that they was in and departed into Assyria. So that was 722 BC history, right? That's now here being mentioned in the scriptures. Verse 7, for so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods, and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. So the Most High was upset with this tribe, with these 10 tribes, and caused them to go into captivity under King Shalmaneser of the Assyrians into Assyria. So this is what we're reading about now in 2nd Esdras 13 and 40. 2nd Esdras.
Now, that's what you say. That's what we read now in the Bible, about they took them to another land.
Right. No, not that they took them to another land. When we go back, and I'm going to reread the verse, it'll correlate to what we just read. It's referencing when this happened. Okay. When Shalmaneser took them into captivity under the king named Hosea. Okay. Not that they went into the land, not that they went into the land here, but that they was in the Assyrian captivity and then they went to another land. Right? So now let's go back to 2nd Esdras 13 and 40. So that was 2 Kings 17. I read 1 to 3, and then verse 6. I'm sorry, verse 5. Water. Exactly. Hosea the king and Shalmaneser are the same person that we're reading in 2 Kings. It just spells it differently. Instead of having H, the H's is taken out. Right? Shalmaneser is Shalmaneser. Hosea, Osea. Right? The H is removed. It's as if a Benjamite wrote it. You know, Benjamin don't like H's. They don't say things as hot. They say things as hot. Hot. All right, so now 2nd Esdras 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners. Who were the 10 tribes? the peaceable multitude that was seen in a dream and was expounded upon by Uriel. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, Samaria, in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasseh the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Con, you're absolutely right. So they went into this other region out of Samaria, right, in the captivity, under the hand of King Salmanasseh.
Do we know what waters those were?
No.
Do we know what land it gave?
Assyria.
So they were still in Africa, Middle East.
Yeah, in the Middle East.
Okay, they had to come over to something.
Yeah. So now, verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. So while they're in Assyria in the captivity, and there's battles going on with the Assyrians and also the other nations, they now are consulting and say, we're going to bounce. We're going to leave this area and go to another area where never mankind dwelt. So the Most High now has his hand involved in this because he's now preparing for what we're reading. Because for the dream to have happened during the time of Esdras, right, this now has to fulfill itself. The Most High has to have a way, whatever conflict was going on during the Assyrian captivity or whatever time that was going on where the Lord allowed the 10 tribes to leave, it was his hand that was involved. So to have them conspire and say, we're going to leave here because we can't keep our laws here. We didn't really keep it when we was in the land. We had a lot of rude, foolish kings that set up, but we're going to go to another land. We got it now. We're going to go to another land and keep the Most High's commandments, right? It says that they might keep that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So while they were in Samaria under Jeroboam and all the kings that came after them, they was seduced into following after the evil way, right, under their rulership of these kings that was set up. But now in captivity, they now saying that we're going to go somewhere else and try to keep these laws. It says, verse 43, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So the Most High now is guiding them, showing them signs to now give them direction of where they need to go, to bring them into another land where these 10 tribes are then going to dot land and then inhabit the land, right? It says, for through 2nd Esdras 13, page 31. 43 right now, or 44 right now. So it says, so the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Ashereth. When you go into the breakdown of it, it's like a new land or new country, another country, right? So they left where they were at in the Middle East, these 10 tribes, and then migrated themselves over into North, Central, and South America, right? So that now when you look at these 10 tribes that's over in North, Central, and South America, and you look at what they were doing, right? So when the conquistadors of them came over, they started to compare notes of what the Jews used to do in their land and what they used to chant, and listening to what they're saying and what they're chanting. So in the records of them, they hear them doing what we do during the prayers, right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one. They hear the native Indians here saying these things. They see them, and we still see them today doing what? Wearing the fringes upon their garments, right? You see some of the Reubenites, Seminole Indians, they used to still wear their, what we know, some say mitri, some say miters, upon their heads when they came over here, right? And some of the customs that they kept during the land is from the customs that we kept when we was in our homeland. But now, they weren't perfect in doing it, right? Over time, these 10 tribes started to follow after, follow the sun, moon, and stars, doing rain dances and, you know, doing a lot of different things that is not according to the scriptures. Right?
How come they went on and did that?
As far as we're following the sin, temptation, right? You know, there's always, Satan is always at work to give you an inspiration to follow after that which is not of God, right? This is a part of the class when we was going into lust, right? And the temptations that Satan uses, whether it be doctrine, whether it be affliction, whether it be lust, right? The lust of the flesh is you know, is heavy. It's heavy because he'll play on your weakness and give you an abundance or give you an idea that you can receive some form of happiness or joy in doing it, right? So sometimes you got people who come with doctrine and say, hey, if we dance to the sun and the moon, your input is invalid. Rain gonna come. Instead of just praying to the Most High, or instead of keeping the commandments, and then the Most High will bless you. They went off, right? They were not perfect when they came over here to the new land, right? And spread throughout North, Central, and South America. Then we have the scriptures like Genesis 49 and the one in Deuteronomy where it goes into the characteristics of those 10 tribes and what they would be doing in their latter days, right? So that we can now pinpoint, okay, they left there and came here, right? And now they're spread throughout, and then we can get to the latter days now to get to the continuation of fulfillment of prophecy. Right. All right. So I'm gonna read verse 45 again. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Esdras. So for them to go throughout their whole journey, it took a year and a half of migration. That's a long time. That's a long migration for all 10 of those tribes to fully get to where they needed to go, right? So, and it makes sense because we're talking 10 tribes of people. It ain't like about a group of 100 people that just got to probably get in one vessel and go somewhere. No, we're talking about all 10, right? That now migrate and leave and then now have to land in a certain area over a period of time and develop their own, you know, adventuring and exploring the earth and finding the food and everything else. So it took a while for them to get there. It says in verse 46, then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, right? So they stayed there until the last days, right? They didn't leave and migrate as a people, as tribes, and go somewhere else. The Most High kept them there until the latter days, to when Yahushua comes back, they will all be redeemed in the same location, right? They were not taken into another captivity somewhere else. They still dwelt there. So that's why it's interesting when you go here a little, there a little, how Esdras and what the Most High had the chronicalization of what events happened in Kings. Then you go all the way back to Jacob's dream. Jacob pertaining to the 12 tribes, right? To what pertaining to his 12 sons. So he was given the foresight to even see what was going to happen in the latter days with these sons, which will become tribes, which will become like a company of nations, right? So there's a lot of visions and a lot of dreams that was given to these righteous men for us to see as a record to understand the beginning, the middle, and the end of times, right? But we got to piece them all together, right? We piece them all together, and then we get a clearer picture. So what was just like an empty palette, now is things starting to appear here and there. It's like a, you know, when you get like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's all broken up in the box. You got to start putting them together, joining this. This don't fit. All right, you got to leave that on the side. Let me get the other ones. Sister, then y'all come in. Mm-hmm. 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 Right, and you'll even see like when it talks about the Persian and Medes and how the Lord calls Cyrus his anointed, right? And because he was anointed or chosen to perform, or to allow Israel to go back and rebuild and repair Jerusalem, right? Or he's now shown the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, a dream, right? But now he has righteous prophets, interpreters, to go and break it down for them to be able to decipher and understand what it is the Lord has shown them, right? So the Lord will work through them, but still show them certain things, but still have righteous men to be able to have that channel with the Lord to break and edify on those things that were seen. It'll come from the Most High. Yeah, it'll come from the Most High, because these dreams are visions of the prophecy, right? It's visions of what is going to occur according to the Most High's word. It's just the Most High uses different vessels or different venues to bring them out, right? So like what Nebuchadnezzar, when he saw it, when he had that dream, that didn't come from no other god, because that's why it was like a standoff where he had all these other wizards and soothsayers and things that was able to break down things that he'd been doing for a while, but they couldn't do it, right? This was now of the Most High, because Daniel broke down the current empire and the empires to come that wasn't going to be there for hundreds of years, right? No other person was given that ability, or false god was going to give the ability to give that type of detail like how the Most High gave to Daniel. Right. Right. Daniel, Joseph, right? A lot of prophets was given the ability to be used as vessels to break down what it is we're seeing. The interesting thing about Daniel, when you read it in Esdras, the Lord told you to show Daniel about the last empires, but he said, I didn't break it down for Daniel. Right. I didn't give him the interpretation of it. He gave it to Esdras. Daniel just saw it and wrote down what he saw, right? And recorded it, but he didn't give the full breakdown of it. He was now giving breakdown upon breakdown upon breakdown upon breakdown, right? And then even in the 11th chapter, he went and referenced Daniel. He said, look, this eagle that has these 12 feathers, 8 wings and all that, this is of the 4th beast that was shown to Daniel. But I ain't break it down to Daniel, but I'm going to break it down to you. Broke it down to Esdras, but didn't show it to Daniel. Daniel, now because of the other prophets like John the Revelator and so forth and so on, we now deductive reason to come to the understanding of what that is, because time has passed and these empires have come up and now it's history for us. So we can now go and break it down easier. Yahweh Kanan. You forgot?
No, I was talking about for the most
Right. Right. Show you the power of the Most High, that he can use anything to bring forth. That's why he said, listen, I can bring forth new stones. If y'all want to be so wicked, I can get rid of y'all and bring forth new stones. Right. Right.
Yeah, the Most High is most merciful with us. All the trials and tribulations that we went through, you know what I mean? When he gave us the power, we didn't use it. Right. So we had to go to allow it, where we're going through now, in order to get back to where we have to get back.
Right. You know? So let's finish up. We still got a lot. So verse 47 again. The 47, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders, right? So everybody wasn't taken. You still had some that remained within the borders within Israel, right? The 10 tribes was taken out, but the southern kingdom still remained there. They still are also going to be redeemed. That's a part of that Mount Zion, actually. It says, now, verse 49, now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. and then shall he show them great wonders. So like when we was in Egypt, the Most High showed great wonders, the 10 plagues to Israel, and it happened against the Egyptians, right? Where the waters all turned to blood, the frogs came up, the lice, right? All these different things that happened during the time of the Egyptians were great wonders. So be prepared, get ready. There's going to be some new wonders that's going to happen during the time of Christ, right? So we read those and we like, wow, every water vessel, right?
Right.
All just turned to blood, right? So you imagine that if the Lord had that happen, where I don't care, every house, every river, every stream, every waterfall, everything all of a sudden just turned red, blood. Not just like somebody dropped the food coloring in it. It changed its composition. It's not water no more. It's made up of the blood plasma. So when you pour it out, it's now a stink everywhere.
Right.
These were heavy plagues to make everything pitch black, so that if you lit something or had a candle or a flashlight, it would still got absorbed like if it was the black hole. These wonders were great and mighty back then. There's going to be some new ones that's going to come up. And that time is going to be some new ones that the earth is going to bear witness to during the time when Christ comes back, right? When the Lord starts to redeem his people. Verse 51, then said I, O Lord that bearest rule, show me this. Wherefore have I seen the man coming up from the midst of the sea, right? So he got broken down as far as everything else, but he still needed to know who's the man, right? It was like, what's that? Shaq, who's the man? Well, who is the man? Right? Who is this man? Right? It says in verse 52, and he said unto me, like as thou canst neither seek out nor know the things that are in the deep of the sea, even so can no man upon earth see my son or those that be with him, but in the daytime. Right? So for those who are looking to seek Yahushua right now,
Go ahead.
To see what his essence is right now, what do we have? The word. All we have left is the word, right? And right now, the word is the light. That's what we're using to see Yahushua up until that time when he comes back. We can't go to the third heaven to go and seek out Yahushua.
Right. We
can't physically go and send out a telescope. I mean, what do they call those things they send up? Satellites? Or what do they just put on the moon? China just put something on the moon. What do they call it? That's what I was talking about. Yeah, like a space module or like a raft thing, and it's sitting on the moon, right? They say they're the first ones that have a module on the dark side of the moon. Everybody has it on the light side of the moon, but they have it on the dark side of the moon because they have a satellite that's able to ping so they can have connection from the dark side to the satellite and then back down on the earth to where they at in China, right? But they can't send something that far out, or no man can send something that far out that you can go and get into the realm of what the Most High and Christ and all them is. No man can seek that out, right? We don't have that ability. So the Lord gives us what he gives us. We have the record, we have the spirit, and we have opportunity and time to learn and develop and get all of this that we need necessary for before he comes.
For the time comes. I want to read this quick.
Come.
Isaiah 66:1. Thus said the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool.
Right.
Where is the house that ye built unto me, and where is the place of my rest? So, since it's the earth is so big, and it's the Most High footstool.
Right. So imagine it's like you sit back in your chair and you put your foot upon a little bench to sit upon, right? That shows you of the Most High, right? He's not something that, you know, if you sit back and sometimes you just meditating and you ponder things, sometimes it's worthless, but sometimes you'll think about, you know, when there's a scripture that says the earth is just like hanging. I forget somewhere in Proverbs or Psalms. It's just hanging and it ain't on no string or no nothing. It's just there. It's just there in the middle of space, right? How is it there? Why it ain't floating? Like, when you know things getting out of space, it just float all over the place.
Right.
How is the earth just there where it is, and the moon is there where it is, orbiting the earth, and then the sun is center where it is, and you got Pluto and all these different things? Why they not drifting everywhere?
Right.
Or colliding, right? Why they just there? because the Most High is the one who's there's certain things that's beyond our comprehension. Right. The reality of it is we're never going to be on the level of the Most High to comprehend everything that he has in existence. He gives us what he wants us to have in order to sustain and get through these last days. And then things that is high level knowledge, like the deep dark secrets, he also reveals to us, but not everything, right? Some things got to be reserved for when, you know, we sitting at the table drinking yan with Yahweh Shai, that we can ask him questions about certain things, right? Everything ain't known. Even all that Christ did ain't known.
Right. I think even Ezra asked the Most High, and like, you can't understand.
Right. You can't understand. You know, we don't know how to wait a flame. How do you wait fire? The Most High can wait fire. He knows what the measure or of measurement of what that flame is in certain places. He can do it, but we can't. Right. Man doesn't have a device to be able to do that. But the Lord. So there's certain things that is just on a higher level of the spectrum that we just can't comprehend. So now back, verse 53. This is the interpretation of the dream which thou sawest, and whereby thou only art here lightened or given understanding. Right. But thou hast forsaken thine own way and applied thy diligence unto my law and sought it. So Esdras was one who forsook off the ways of carnal man and followed after the Most High and diligently sought after his law. So he was one of those that had a pure spirit to be chosen to be shown types of things like this, right? The Lord ain't going to deal with somebody who just stone cold wicked and then showing them all these great, deep, dark secrets. No. Person who ain't dealing with the commandments of the Most High, no, right? That person needs to get it. He's going to have to get it in the second and third order of effect, not firsthand like Esdras or Daniel and all these other righteous men. It says, thy life hast thou ordered in wisdom, and has called understanding thy mother. And therefore have I showed thee the treasures of the highest. After other 3 days I will speak other things unto thee, and declare unto thee mighty and wondrous things. Then went I forth into the field, giving praise and thanks greatly unto the Most High, because of his wonders which he did in time. Right? And because he governeth the same, and such things as fall in their seasons, and there I sat 3 days, right? So after all of this breakdown, which was one of many, he then was marveled, right? It's like, imagine all this that you're reading, that you're getting within like a period of about 3 to 4 months. Because remember, when you start reading how he had 7 days or 2 weeks, 3 days. Here, you start adding it up. Those are the times where he's going and having to fast. So he's going and have to sit and meditate and then come back, and then you'll give him the breakdown. Shows him the dream, and then he gets the breakdown. Then you go away again. Come back. Collect your thoughts. Now I'm going to give you another one. Then I'm going to give you another one. Each time he's just giving them the breakdowns and giving them the understanding. That's a lot that was shown to Esdras in this period.
Yeah, well, most I know Ed could handle it.
Yeah.
But he couldn't handle it all at one time. He had to give him piece by piece.
Right. That's why sometimes when he saw the dream, he was afraid. Right? Daniel was the same way. When Daniel got the certain dreams and breakdowns, he was afraid. Right? That shows you how heavy it is that they were seen or that they were shown. Right? We're reading about it, but they were given like vivid pictures of, you know, what was going to happen in the last days, or even the time that was before us, because some of it is history now.
I'm glad that we got the knowledge now, so we'll have general ideas, you know, for the interpretation of both sides. Have brothers like you to give us this type of knowledge and this time for us to learn, you know.
Yeah.
We get our stuff together.
Okay.
Even though it's going to be kind of hard for some of us anyway, but you know, we understand.
Okay. All right, so it's about 1:20. 1:20. We're going to stop here. Take about a half-hour break. Right. Stretch your legs, do a little bite to eat, and then refresh ourselves and come back, and then we'll do the last chapter, 14. 2nd Esdras 14 to complete the service. All right, so with that, we'll come back.
Hey, come on.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.